So I am going to be doing a review of my Voge R625 and I hope you're going to enjoy it. So this is my review of the Voge R625. I'll be honest, I didn't buy this bike because I wanted to be a spec sheet warrior or anything. I bought it because I wanted something that felt manageable and looked good. Had enough power to have a bit of fun on. I wanted something that didn't make me feel like I was wrestling a wardrobe every time I was riding it. And yes, I am reviewing the bike with one arm, bionic arm, whatever you want to say. So I do need to find something that's manageable, easy to ride and easy to move about when I'm not actually riding. So if I say that something feels heavy, awkward, you know, comfortable, then believe me, I'm doing it from a real life perspective. So I'm not going to give you the brochure review, because there isn't one anyway, but I'm going to give you it from my view, how I can handle it and how it just feels in a real world situation. And I'm also going to give you my honest opinion whether I think it's worth the money. The Voge R625 is basically a naked roadster bike. Those of you who know your bikes are going to already know that. So it's not an adventure bike, it's not a full-on sport bike, and it's not trying to be a tourer bike. It's more of a real-world road bike. It's the kind of bike that you can use on a commute or just a little blast out, as we've just done. It's the kind of bike that you can just park anywhere and look back at and go, she looks good. I think she's a real beauty, so I think you're going to get maybe a biased opinion, but I have rode one of the other Voges, the 525 DSX. As you know, on previous videos, you'll be able to see how I got on with that. But this one is a completely different feel, a completely different ride. So let's get to the boring bits. It's got a 581cc parallel twin engine with a 270-degree firing order, which basically means it's designed to feel a bit more characterful and talky rather than just flat and boring. And I ain't got time for that. It makes around 64 brake horsepower and 58 Newton meters of torque, so it's not silly fast, but it's definitely not slow either. And for me, that's actually part of the appeal, because I don't need a bike that's constantly trying to fire me into a hedge. I want something that gives me confidence and puts a little grin on my face. Well, it's actually been putting a big grin on my face. Looks-wise, I think it's a really smart bike. It's sharp, it's modern, and it's got that slightly angry front end. Like it's mildly offended by traffic, maybe. And we all know what traffic's like, eh? The LED lighting gives it a nice modern feel, and the whole bike looks more expensive than you might expect for the money. And I know looks are personal, but I do think this bike's got presence. It doesn't look like a budget bike from 10 years ago. It looks current. You've got the exposed frame, the sporty tank shape, the tidy tail section, and that naked bike stance. It's not covered in massive panels. You can actually see the engine and the shape of the bike, which I really do like. And yes, I do occasionally walk away. Well, not just occasionally, every time I park up, I look back and I think, yeah, Lizzie, good choice. She's damn fine. See, one of the biggest things for me with any bike is confidence. Not just riding it, but moving it around, getting it off the stand, paddling it backwards, parking it, all the normal boring bits that nobody talks about until you're stuck on gravel outside a cafe trying not to look panicked. So the seat height on the R625 is 785mm, which makes it pretty accessible for a middleweight bike. Perfect for me at 5'7". It doesn't feel towering or intimidating. And the seat is reasonably narrow at the front, so you're not forced into that awkward wide leg stance where you feel like you're doing a gym stretch at the petrol station. And for me, that makes a huge difference. So I've just been out on this bike and I can honestly say I absolutely love it. Honestly, I'm not just saying it because it's my bike. I'm saying it because it's taken me a while to find the right bike again. But this one, I have fallen so in love with it that I don't want to go home. And Neil keeps telling me, come on, we've got to go back now. And I just don't want to go back. I feel like a kid that, you know, the parents telling you, lights, when the lights go, come on, you've got to go back home. I don't want to go back home. I want to keep going out and riding further and further on this bike because it's given me such a thrill. I love it and I can't express that enough. So compared to the adventure bike I had, this bike is just and it's in a different league. I can actually have fun on the twisties. I don't feel like I'm, I don't know, moving a wardrobe around indoors. I can actually just get on the bike and just throw it around. I know I can take this bike out the garage on my own and I don't have to depend on anyone to help me move it around or anything. I'm just so confident. I can just grip with my knees and I can ride it without my arm on. I just feel so happy on it and at one with this bike. I love it. Because I ride with a bionic arm, I am very aware of weight distribution, clutch feel and the reach of the bars, and whether a bike feels like it wants to tip over at slow speeds. Go back to one of my previous videos and you might see exactly how I reacted to that. But the R625 feels manageable. It's not a featherweight 125, but it doesn't feel ridiculous either. The official dry weight is listed around 190 kilograms. So once you've got fuel in it, you know it's a proper bike. But the important thing is that it doesn't feel top heavy in a horrible way. And that's what really matters in life. Not just the number on paper, but whether you feel in control of it. And for me, this bike gives me that. It pulls nicely, I can ride it calmly, you can short shift it and it doesn't feel like it's complaining. But if I do open it up, there's enough there to make it feel exciting. It's not terrifying, it's not boring. It just sits in that nice middle ground and it's really, really making me feel like I just want to go out and ride all the time. And I think for a lot of riders, especially people moving up from smaller bike or people who don't want something massive and expensive, this is probably the sweet spot. You're not buying this because you want pub bragging rights about having 1,000,000 horsepower. You're buying it because you want something enjoyable, usable, and not constantly trying to ruin your insurance quote. So the gearbox is a 6-speed and it also has a slipper clutch. The clutch is important to me because of my arm. I don't always want to keep going on about it, but I'd say that this is one of the bits that can make or break a bike. If the clutch is heavy or awkward, it just gets tiring quickly. But on the R625, I find it really, really smooth and manageable. It doesn't feel like I'm having to fight it every time I stop and start. I'm actually enjoying how the clutch feels and it makes it so much easier in traffic. Not that we get much here in Scotland. One of my very first bikes was a Suzuki SV650 and I fell in love with that bike a lot, and I probably made a mistake by getting rid of it, but I thought at the end of the day I've got to have the bigger bike, so I went for the 1000cc and I just didn't get on with them. But this one has actually topped my SV, and I didn't think I'd ever say that because every bike I've had I've compared to that SV. And I know you compare it to the, you know, you never forget your first, but this bike, sorry, the first, that's out the window. I think it's got to be one of my most favourite bikes I've ever ridden. And the confidence it's given me is just unbelievable. I just can't express how much I'm looking forward to getting out to Europe and going up the mountains on it, maybe. The handling is one of the things that I really, really like. It feels stable but not lazy. It's not a tiny flicky bike, but it changes direction nicely. And once you're moving, it feels lighter than you expect. The suspension is KYB with upside down forks at the front and a monoshock at the rear. Whatever that is. So that's a good thing to see on a bike at this sort of price point, because suspension makes such a difference to confidence and on the bum bum. The brakes feel strong enough without being grabby. Nobody likes anything grabby, do they? And that's really important, especially if you're still building confidence, or even if you just need something that's not too grabby. The R625 comes with a 7-inch full colour TFT dash, whatever that is as well. You've got traction control, ABS, decent tyres, good brakes, good suspension, a modern dash and a bike that looks properly finished. It doesn't feel like they've given you the engine and said, oh, yeah, that'll do. Comfort wise, I think is really a good type of bike. It's the naked bike, so obviously you don't get the wind protection, but for normal riding, weekend rides, back roads, town riding and short trips, I find it really comfortable enough. And I am going to put it through its test to see how well it handles for me around Europe next month. The riding position is slightly sporty but not extreme. I'm not folded up like a paperclip, so the bars feel natural, the seat height works and the bike doesn't feel awkward underneath me. The fuel tank, it's 16.5 litres, and Voge Biking Direct list is a possible range of up to about 350 kilometres or 215 miles, depending on how it's ridden. I've got to say, this bike, I think it loves me as much as I love it. It doesn't make me feel like it's going to fire me into a hedge or anything. I actually feel like it's really planted, and I actually am loving riding the lanes. In fact, Neil was even saying to me, Lizzie, wait for me. He's never said that to me before. So I know this bike is a good bike for me. And I think if anyone else takes this bike out, you're going to actually love it as much as I do. But you get your own. So of course I've had to have the bike modified for me because I ride with one arm. This is the Clicktronic dual clutch and brake lever. This is the clutch and this is my front brake, and it's literally change gear, brake, bring all in if you want to do a hard braking. And if all honesty, it's a simple system to use. A lot of people look at it and go, but this has helped me ride a bike other than the DCT. I have actually used my indicator for the first time as well, because I'm confident enough to take this arm off of the handlebar to do the indicator, so I didn't have to have all of this switched over. I can actually feel the vibration of when I turn the indicator on and when I've turned the indicator off. Obviously, I will take a quick check on my screen to see if it's actually been turned off. So I'm 5'7" and I can flat foot comfortably on this bike. So majority of the weight is quite low down, and I'm not fighting with the bike at all to just be sitting here. It's a little bit windy, so you're getting a little bit of wind every now and then, but I'm just not concerned about this bike going down at all. And the only thing I will say about this bike, a little bit windy because I'm at the coast, but the only thing I will say is I still haven't worked out how to get the bloody seat off. This is the key to get this one off, but it doesn't do anything for this. So if anyone can help me, please. I'm a woman in distress. I don't know how to get the seat off. Now, it wouldn't be a proper review if I just stood here and said everything was perfect, because no bike is perfect. Isn't it? Perfectly imperfect. The R625 is good value, but there are still few things that I'd want people to think about. First, it's still a naked bike. So if you want big wind protection, this probably isn't the answer, unless you add a screen. I don't like screens. Second, if you come in from a really light bike, it will still feel like a step up in weight. Not scary, but you'll know it's a bigger bike. And third, Voge is still a newer name for a lot of UK riders compared with brands like Yamaha, Honda, Kawasaki or Suzuki. So for some people the question won't be, is this bike good? It'll be, what's the dealer support like near me? A bike can be amazing, but if you can't get help, parts, servicing or backup, that's something you need to think about. So my advice would be, don't just look at the bike, look at who's selling it, who's servicing it and what support you've got locally. And I've got some great support at Biking Direct and MotoGB. And who do I think this bike's for? Well, I think it's for someone who wants a middleweight bike without spending silly money, someone who wants enough power to enjoy themselves but doesn't want the bike that feels intimidating, and it could suit newer riders moving up, especially with the A2 restrictor option available through some dealers. It would suit returning riders who don't want something massive. It could also suit someone who wants a fun second bike. It could suit people like me, riders who want confidence, support and something that just feels manageable but it's still a bit of attitude. And I don't have any attitude, do I? So my final thoughts. Do I like my Voge R625? Yes, I do. I love it. I love how it looks, I love how it feels, I love that it gives me confidence, and I love that I've got enough power to be fun without being ridiculous. And I really love that it feels like a bike that I can actually live with. So for me, that matters more than having the biggest badge or the biggest number on a spec sheet. Sometimes the best bike is the one that just makes you want to get your gear on and go out for a ride. And this does that. Let me know what you think. Would you consider one of these, or are you still sticking with the big brand names? If you've got any questions about what it's like from a rider's point of view, especially from someone riding with a bionic arm, pop it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. So I hope that you enjoyed my little review, because obviously I'm not a reviewer, but I wanted to give you a real world feeling of my bike. And I'm just going to go off again now and have some more fun in the lanes, because Scotland is the best place to actually ride these lanes. And remember, it's not goodbye, it's see you later. And you're always south of somewhere.